everybody. I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order, the study session to order. Get that out of your way, sorry. Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
All right, we have a wonderful presentation and study session tonight on attract or recruitment and retention. And you know what, are we going to pull up there our agenda at all for everyone to see, or no?
There's only one agenda item is the discussion
That's it then?
of this.
Okay. All right, well, we'll go ahead and get started then, and we'll turn it over to Dr. Stifler to start us off.
President Bullock, members of the board, honored guests, Dr. Carter and Ms. Lewis, we prepared a presentation with places to look at the national level, the state level, what's happening here local, and opportunities to discuss, but you should absolutely feel free, I'm stealing from Carter here, to jump in wherever you need to. We also, I know that Mrs. Connect brought some materials and some other, whatever else you have to bring to the table is all welcome and helpful. Carter,
Good.
go.
Thank you, Dr. Stifler. President Bullock, members of the board, of course, honored guests as well. Thank you for letting us come today and just kind of talk a little bit about and engage you in the idea of recruitment of staff. I'm going to say staff, not just teachers, but recruitment and retention of all of our staff. I would say, though, you'll find that our presentation today does have a focus on teachers just because we know that they are arguably one of the largest contributing factors to improving student achievement. Okay? Ms. Lewis, would you want to order our presentation go? The presentation isn't there. The mouse was, there we go. Can you go to the next slide, please? All right, so as Dr. Stifler said, here's our agenda up there, and we're going to try to give an opportunity to hear a little bit of statistics about teacher recruitment and retention at a national perspective, a view from Arizona, and then really bringing it to Peoria Unified School District, and then talking a little bit about ways that we can overcome the shortages through things we're currently doing, and then maybe some new initiatives, so you're going to have a chance to see that. And as Dr. Stifler said as well, at any point, feel free, please, to share the conversation. Okay.
All right, thank you.
Okay, got it. Next one. Next one, please. Thank you. All right, from a national perspective here, I think it's fair to say, and maybe some of you have been in conversations seeing the statistics, that the statistics on teacher retention are relatively bleak, that many of our teachers are leaving the profession or soon will be able to for retirement purposes. We know that the loss of teachers, whether you're new or veteran, the time that we put into training our teachers, the loss can become very costly to school districts, which is a very important reason for us to take note. And also when our staff members leave, we lose that institutional knowledge that we built, that pedagogical knowledge as well, of their skills and how they perform in the classroom. Nationally, retention rates of teachers show there's a great need for staff and resources within Title I schools. And I bring you that piece today because, of course, in Peoria we have schools that are very affluent and schools that also serve Title I communities. We know that it's very important to provide support to our teachers, whether you're new to the profession itself or whether you're new just to Peoria. We also know that diversity in the workforce needs to be examined. This is one of the few times where you're going to see multiple generations inside our schools, from those baby boomers to those who were born after 1997. Millennials, Generation Xers, you've probably seen some of that research and data. And so I think from a district perspective and then from a leadership perspective, we really need to consider our workforce. And also, we really just need to be aware of those factors because, of course, we're charged to bring the best educational opportunities to our students as possible.
Quick question
Yes,
for
sir.
you, if maybe just a reason or two, just for the good of the order. Bullet point 1, 50% higher in high poverty schools, a reason or two of why that happens?
Well, I think if you were to ask our educators out there, they'll have some response for you, but I'll keep it at the table. I do believe, and it's fair to say that typically students in our more less affluent environments come with more needs.
Okay.
And with more needs comes more effort on behalf of the teacher in many cases, not always, but in many cases. So I think that's one reason that you would see that, as well as simply, I'm going to just say, the aesthetics of the locations, right? Some communities look different than others as it relates to SES.
Parental support often feels different in Title I schools than it feels in more affluent schools as well.
Makes sense. Good. Thank you.
Okay. So those are just some national statistic, just some things. And of course, you see, I'm not speaking to each bullet point, I'm trying to give you an overview. But we would welcome any further conversation from a national level if you wish, before we move to the state.
Just one question. We've been really, I know as a board, we've been really pushing hard for this over the past couple of years, is casting a wide national net to attract the best and brightest to Peoria to fill the ranks for those who leave. Anything, again, just for the good of the order, anything that's changed in the last 2 years in our techniques that have helped us cast a better, more broad, more enticing net, or any new directions we're going? And again, it's a conversation for another day, obviously, but if there's 1 or 2 points you could bring up for all, what is PUSD doing maybe to meet the needs? Because just like education is changing, so is recruitment. So is, you've got a younger generation coming up that are becoming teachers or looking at the teaching profession. What are we doing differently to attract them, perhaps?
I think that some of the conversations that we're having when we visit different job fairs are very different because of the clientele that we're dealing with in terms of being millennials. Like, millennials are very into a work-life balance. So conversations that we can have with them about what being an educator may offer them in that area. There's a perception among people our age that we think that the younger generation, the newer teachers entering our profession, are not very concerned about retirement. Well, research shows they're very concerned about things like that. So information that we can share about the benefits of being a teacher as it relates to retirement and things like that. So what we're doing really is on a personal level in our conversations with potential teachers, and trying to not only attract them to Peoria, but to help them understand all the benefits in becoming a teacher outside of the things we always hear about that of course exist in terms of, you know, just feeling like you're being productive, making a difference in students' lives, all those things. So as I've read and as we've researched as a team, what it is millennials are looking for in a workplace, we've really started to transform the kinds of conversations we have when we go to recruit. I think kind of a discouraging thing that's happened is in conversation and collaboration with other districts, those who, we didn't recruit outside the state of Arizona last year. We did not. And
you didn't try, or we were not successful?
We didn't go.
Okay.
So we didn't try. Now, as to whether or not we want to change that I think that's definitely a conversation we should have. However, I will say that talking with other districts, it's been amazing to hear from them how many people did go to the states where people used to always go. Michigan is the prime one, and literally they had hardly any students graduating with degrees in education. So the pool of potential teachers is getting smaller and smaller. So, I mean, it's really, we're going to talk more about it as we go through the presentation, but it's almost the perfect storm at this point in terms of how challenging it is. But, yeah, but.
What has your research shown about transients between states? In other words, you just talked about not having teachers come from other states to Arizona, but do we see teachers leaving the state of Arizona, maybe staying in the profession but going to teach in another state? Do we know that?
You have something?
I don't, I could.
Ms. Connect, I don't have any in particular research to share with you, but I can tell you that one of the hardships across the state is that for many years, Arizona's tests that are required for certain teachers right in certain content areas have been very difficult. And for a long, long time, the state did not allow reciprocity. However, this past year, they changed that. As a matter of fact, it was just, I think, a couple of months ago when they changed their perspective and are allowing people to come to us from other states and giving them a full credential instead of them having to have a provisional and then take the test. So I do believe that's going to help us as it relates to teachers coming and going.
That's a positive thing. What about the political and financial prospects for the teaching profession in the state of Arizona? Does that come up in your conversations at all?
Of course it does. Let me just take that. Yes, ma'am, money matters.
Yep.
Money matters. And so as I've, as a previous district, as I've done recruiting in Michigan and Ohio and things like that, and sitting there with a recruiter from Texas or Alaska who is offering $15,000 more than I can possibly hope to pay, that's going to make a difference. That's going to make, it's not, there's still going to be some people who are going to want to come, but that's going to make a difference. The political, it's amazing what some people think Arizona is when they're back in the Midwest, and they have perhaps some correct perceptions, but they believe that it's dangerous, that it's rednecks, all of those sorts of things. I have heard teaching recruits and others tell me that, those sorts of things. So I couldn't say that that's not accurate. That does happen.
Well, I was just curious if that enters into, it is another factor in the conversation.
Yeah. May I address a question that came from President Bullock there about the national perspective? I'll share with you, I think one of the biggest things that Peoria has in its back pocket is its reputation. And I have seen, just as of this morning, an email from one of our principals who had some dialogue with a relative who had someone that was working and studying at Rice University in Texas. And they said, oh, hey, I've been looking at your posting and I see you have a chemistry opening. I'm not going to be able to teach until next school year. However, I'm very much interested. So I guess what I would say, that idea of word of mouth nationally, and you know, we're well known for a variety of things. We have a lot of our staff members attending conferences sharing the Peoria story, and I think that alone brings a lot of value.
Yeah, I can confirm that with my travels and a variety of conferences across the country. In the Pacific region in particular, the reputation for Peoria really does rise above some of the others, so within the state, so a lot to be proud of.
Among my first interactions coming into the district was to walk with Mr. Kegel into this room to meet new teachers. And I had what had been my standard new teacher speech ready. Hey, welcome, it's going to be great. You finally get to have your own bulletin board. You finally get to put the desks the way you want them to be. You finally get to own all of that. And my speech absolutely was the wrong speech, because 3/4 of those teachers had taught somewhere else, and they had left where they were to come here. Okay, that was an astounding realization for me, that Peoria is a proud one, but that Peoria is still as difficult as it is. I took from that Peoria is a destination district still for many teachers.
And the crisis is nationwide. No
It is a
doubt.
nationwide crisis. And in Arizona, it's more acute than in many other places. So I would frame the whole discussion as even now, so it's finally hit mighty Peoria. It's like we're the last to feel the effect of this national problem.
And we'll dig further deeper into that in the conversation here. This next slide comes from this rather large document from 2016 here, but I wanted you to see it simply because it's showing that we are trying to stay up with current research.
I brought the same thing.
Oh, you did? But if you look at the slide there, and you know, I guess what I want you to look at, what does the research say are the reasons that teachers leave? You know, and this is from a national perspective. We're going to, hopefully you will see that we as Peoria, but also as a state, are doing some things to overcome them. Are we perfect? No. We have some things to do, and we have some teacher-employee voice to help drive us. But I think this is important. These are some themes you're going to see throughout the rest of our presentation today. Okay?
I just brought the summary, though.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, maybe you're clear.
Why don't you take a moment, Carter, and go back. Go through what are those reasons?
Sure. And again, for everybody out there, inadequate preparation, and I think we can look at inadequate preparation from not just coming into Peoria, for example, but what does your student teaching experience look like? What type of practicum experiences did you get? Are you really ready to be in front of a group of children on your own? Are you ready to meet with parents on your own and discuss, right, student learning goals, things like that? So preparation, and how do we as a district then support those teachers, tying into that idea of lack of support. I don't believe this happens on our campuses, but I believe it certainly could, which is why it's here, where teacher is given a job, you're given a class, and you're told to go take care of business and to be the best you can, and then simply maybe left on your own and not given that high level of support that you need. challenging working conditions. Again, I haven't seen that in the schools I've visited so far in my short time here, but there's a lot that goes into that, from, I mentioned aesthetics, the building itself, from resources, from, again, that navigation with our parents and our community, from the students and their needs, right? There's a variety of variables that tie into that. Dissatisfaction with compensation, Dr. Stifler spoke to that, as did you, Ms. Connect, that idea of how are we supporting our staff? How are we allowing them to simply pay their bills? What's our salary schedule like? How are we honoring those hard-to-fill positions? Are we paying teacher stipends for going above and beyond, tutoring, things like that? So bottom line, just there is research, there's data to suggest there's dissatisfaction with compensation. For us, I think, and you need to know it from a recruiting perspective, we really do also discuss our benefits package. A lot of people don't see that as compensation, but it really is. And we offer a very competitive benefits package here, which I do believe is hopefully helpful in keeping and finding our educators. Career opportunities, Michelle mentioned the millennials. I think we heard a statistic the other day that a great tenure in a job in San Francisco was 8 months. Our people are looking to move up and to explore other opportunities, right? So we are getting our people in, and even for those that have been around for a long time, we got to figure out ways to meet their needs, give them opportunity, give them that job fulfillment. And I guess bottom line, everybody's a leader, a teacher leader, cafeteria leader, whatever job you have. So really reinforcing that. And then the fact of the matter is, and we've all seen that, people simply do leave for personal reasons. Family members are ill, right? Their spouse gets relocated. Things happen that are beyond our control as a district.
What's interesting is that, and I'll give kudos to Dr. Stifler in my talks with him, and I know that it's permeating amongst the staff as well. A lot of new ideas are surfacing, which is good. When I go around and I've toured schools, and this is going to be kind of a general statement, and talking to teachers, one of the main, I always ask them kind of the opposite question: why do you stay? There are reasons to leave, and teachers do, and I get it, of course. That's just the free market is what the free market is. If there's some better opportunity, amen, good luck, and I appreciate that. But I asked them, why do you stay? And the number one reason is, and again, this is a general statement about all the answers I've had, is because of the Peoria family, because of the PUSD family. There are problems, compensation, resources, training. You can pick apart any area, of course you can. But that Peoria family is what keeps a lot of teachers here. I am encouraged that Dr. Stifler is going to try and bring new ideas, and again, staff as well, to try and make sure that that's not the only reason that teachers stay. Because quite honestly, you get to a point of the Peoria family, and that only lasts so long before it starts crumbling. If that's the only thing that keeps you here and everything else is not going well, you're going to leave no matter how ardent of a supporter you are. So I would hope, and again, unfortunately, I'm not going to be here next year and on, but I would hope that that continues strongly with your ideas you and I have talked about of how can we give other support structures in place, that the Peoria family is the gem why you're here. That's the intrinsic value of why you're here. But I also love it for the fact that I'm properly compensated, have the resources, I have the training, I have the peer teaching help, I have department chairs, I have all these different things to also augment that wonderful castle in the middle called the Peoria family. So I really hope that continues that trend that I'm seeing, and it just sounds exciting. Good. So, it's not an overnight change, but I'm very encouraged.
That was very gracious. We are working for those things. Those things are happening. The way Mrs. Connect asked that question before, well, what's Arizona's reputation? So Arizona keeps putting together at the top level committees to explore, well, what can we do? What can we do? What can we do? Well, Kathy brought in the list of policy recommendations from this very thick study, and number 1 says, pay people more.
Right.
Number 2 says, pay people more, and I think number 3 says, pay people more by giving them houses.
Right,
Literally,
right,
I'm not
by
making
giving
that
them-
up. Number
right.
1, number 2, number 3 says, pay people more.
Right, because if you can build the compensation to a point that's very robust and satisfying, then some of the other working conditions maybe are mitigated. So I think our challenge really is, because we're not given the state funding to give the salaries that we would like to give, what we have to do is those other working conditions we have to boost in lieu of being able to give more cash.
And we have to advocate at the state level as well. And
Every
conversations
day.
with staff across the district and the chats that I did, 50 or so of them, Ken and I, tried to reframe when, I think it's absolutely okay when someone says, you sometimes hear, when is the district gonna pay us what we really deserve? And my answer straight up was, Ken was right there, the district wants to do that.
Yeah.
How about you help us here, and when is the state gonna make it possible to
Right.
pay what you really deserve? And when somebody says just that little bit, that changes the conversation. It shows where we need to advocate. We can't distribute what we don't have.
I agree.
We just can't.
Thank you.
We've already talked quite a bit about how the impact of how the perfect storm exists in Arizona. It's magnified in terms of where we are in salary and the shortage. Some interesting data. The need for teachers in Arizona and between now and 2025, we're expected to experience between 5 and 15% growth in student enrollment numbers, while at the same time, 24% of Arizona's teachers are eligible to retire. So we're going to continue, the need's going to continue to grow, and naturally, we're losing teachers to retirement. As you'll see on the next slide, these numbers are kind of scary in terms of ultimately who's serving our students. I think that I can share Peoria's data with you, and I will, and it's better than this. But as I reflect on that data, and I think about being the student or the parent of a student, in even a single class that we have that isn't being taught by a appropriately certified, qualified teacher is concerning. So I will share Peoria's data, but I just want you to know that we're doing better than the average, but we want every classroom
One's too
filled.
much.
One's too much.
One's
You
too
got
much.
it. So on bullet number 1, state average, 47% of teacher positions remain vacant or are filled by those who don't meet the standard teacher requirement.
That is a shocking number.
That number's 5% in Peoria.
Wow. But still, statewide, that is a shocking
It is
number.
huge.
And Ms. Cadet, you see where the data came from. It came from respondents of numerous districts across our state.
Right?
Yeah, and it just happened in September, we responded.
Can you break that down? Is it higher in rural areas than metropolitan?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. There's a network of superintendents, there's a network of HR directors. Used to be, as a superintendent, you go down and people say, hey, what's your enrollment? Okay? That was the first superintendent question after, hey, how are you doing? Now the question is, how many vacancies do you have? I promise you, that is the first question when you sit down. And you end up saying things like, I've never seen art vacancies before. We have art vacancies,
We do.
you know, or all of those things. We talk about chemistry vacancies and math vacancies and special ed vacancies, and those things are all true, but it's just gone broader and deeper everywhere. And in rural, where I came from, it's really difficult, really difficult.
And sometimes decisions we make today perpetuate or create problems in the future. And as I look at the art music situation, we do have a lot of open positions in art and music. I can remember a few years back when districts everywhere were cutting an art and music program. So if you had that gift or talent and you were 16 at the time and thought you wanted to be an art or music teacher, well, you're not going to go become an art or music teacher. So now they're not there for us to hire. And it's tough.
And PUSD has always had high standards for the quality of its arts
Yes.
teachers. So
Yes.
it's not just
Right.
a third grade teacher who likes to dabble in teaching art. We have highly qualified
Teachers.
arts
Right.
teachers,
That
which
can
is
teach
one of the
literacy
things
skills
that
through
adds
music.
to our reputation.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So-
Every citizen in Arizona should be calling his or her representative and saying, 47%?
Frightening.
Frightening.
As of September 2016, 25% of all posted positions remained unfilled. That's in the state of Arizona. In our district, it was 1.2%. But I have to share that that number could be considered skewed in a way, and I want to tell you why. At our high school level, if we can't hire a teacher, principals, in order to assure that students are being served by highly qualified, certified teachers, they use a process of assigning extra sections to teachers. So teachers during their, what would normally be planning time, are actually teaching. So that number, in terms of the bodies that we could hire, but don't, because we don't have a teacher to fill the spot, so those positions are divvied out again as extra sections. So our 1.2% reflects those that we couldn't fill even after we used that method. So just be aware that it's kind of artificial in that there are additional bodies and positions we had available. We just filled them in other ways.
Do you have any idea, the natural extension of that question or that statement is, so what is Peoria's net need? If it's 2%, with everyone kind of doing double duty, everyone did their normal class load with their normal planning session, any idea roughly what our percentage would go up to?
I could figure that out pretty quickly.
That's fine. I just, if you had like up to, 5 to 10% instead of 1.2.
Oh, no, it wouldn't go up that high.
Okay.
No. Bullet 3, 155 teachers were hired using an H-1B1 visa or alternative process in the state of Arizona. We hired one teacher last year, H-1B1 visa. However, we have 5 teachers that are employed in our district on H-1B1 visas, as well as one programmer who works in the IT department. So our workforce is relatively young in terms of what our teachers look like. In 13-14 school year, 29% of our teachers in the state had 3 years or less. In Peoria, right now, that we have 33% of our teachers who have 3 years or less of experience. So a third of our workforce are beginning. And I think that Carter and I have had conversations about the kinds of questions that we get asked when we go to job fairs at universities. So we're looking at people that are getting ready to graduate. And one of the most frequently asked question has nothing to do with pay. There are 2 hot topics. One is technology and what kind of support will I have in terms of instructional tools. And the second one is, what does your mentorship program look like? And I first started hearing that at Grand Canyon, and so I thought, Grand Canyon's professors must be telling their kids what questions to ask. Be sure you ask, so that's why they're asking it all the time. But as I've gone to other places, it's one of the number one things they talk about, and it correlates totally with the data, our stay data, as well as our exit survey data. So mentorship and training and giving them support is critically important. And when we have 33% of our teachers who fall in that, what we would call beginning teacher, it's important.
So I understand that there's like almost a penalty for teachers that leave our district and they want to come back. They lose their years as far as pay goes. Why would we do this? Because it seems like we desperately need to attract the more mature and experienced teachers.
I can answer
And
that
it
question.
costs a lot of money to train the younger ones, so why can't we pay the
Well, we could-
experienced ones more?
We have policy that matches nearly every other district policy about how many years of experience we grant somebody when they come. That's grown quite a bit over the last decade. What's our number that we grant now? Is it
5,
up to 5 years?
right.
With the exception of sped teachers,
Okay. But I guess the flip side of that is the loyalty question and about how do we do that. So what has always been district practice, that is something that could be
Yeah,
addressed.
I like to look at that.
When someone leaves, sometimes people leave, it is true, we have people who, because of compression issues, they've maxed out, they go somewhere else, they get those years of experience, and then they want to come back. How do we want to handle that, right? For that individual, that could be a boon, much like you said, on the free market, what can I do? That's kind of difficult about building stability in a classroom and how we're going to do if we encourage people to leave and to come back. I would rather see us we may not be able to do what I would rather do, but I would rather see us be able to pay our people and keep our people than to
Well, yeah.
let our people go somewhere else and figure out the grass is not greener and to come back.
You know, it's
But
interesting, oh, sorry, go
We
ahead.
have to do what we have to do.
Yes,
to
ma'am.
get some more experienced teachers back in here. I would like that too. I would definitely like to see them stay here and grow here with our students, with our administration, and be that family. But, you know, we gotta send our kids off to college.
In rural Arizona, they're typically granting 10 or 12 years of experience
Yeah.
when people leave. That's still a different thing than what you're advocating, that wherever, if I left here after 20 years, I come back, like the email that we all got that says, how come I don't get to come back where I was before I left to go to the neighboring district?
Well, no, there's gonna be some difference, obviously, but I think that it shouldn't be, you know, like a punishment. That's how I'm looking at it, because we want those people back if they're good.
One thing we could look at is extending the years of experience. It makes things more expensive, but it may be something, the right thing to do.
It's interesting, you bring up a point that we've talked about before, but doesn't really get settled with the general public and with legislators, is the fact that anybody who's ever been in business or HR knows that if you turn over your workforce 12%, which we do on average every year,
Yep.
12% of our workforce changes over, how expensive that is in a raw cost of attract and retain, training, and getting someone ramped up to speed, benefits and everything related to that. In the private sector, people be screaming if you turn over your sales in a professional company, not a seasonal company, but turning over your workforce 12% every year is an insane cost that doesn't get messaged. Not that we're not doing it, but I mean, for whatever reason, it doesn't. That's a huge cost component. We always talk about not enough money for schools. Well, we could cut millions of dollars right now from going down the toilet by stemming that tide of losing teachers. One of the main reasons because of pay. You know, so instead of flushing it down the toilet and recruiting again and training a 1/3 of you've got young chicks as 1/3 of our staff, which is, it's great, they're coming into the world, but then they leave so quickly. The analysis of how much it costs, if it was properly messaged to the public and to legislators, I would have to imagine, I'm sure we do, but I'd have to imagine that would raise eyebrows to the point where maybe we ought to, instead of flushing the money down the toilet, let's put that into compensation, additional funding for schools, so that we don't have that incredible turnover in the profession, which is causing our perfect storm. I'd love to see that pushed over the next year or two. That would be.
You have a good point, and as we dig, we're almost to that point of how we're hoping to overcome the shortages. Our focus is on retention, so that we don't get into that spot.
It's
So,
insane,
yes,
12%
I
a
look
year.
forward to your thoughts on that, yeah.
I can just see you pulling your hair out. Nothing personal, Carter. Yes.
Trying to help you, so don't worry.
Wow. Someone's been thinking about it at the table, and I don't want to point fingers.
Mr. Bullock, you basically just read my next slide. You have the data right. We retain about 88% of our teachers. Most of them are females. Most of our staff are females. And then I think that second bullet, that's something I think that we all need to contemplate. I think that is impactful on our students. I believe as diverse a workforce as we can present to our student body, the better for them. So I think that as recruiters and as we continue to talk and sell what we do in our district to other people, that we need to be mindful of what our staff looks like.
I appreciate you saying that. That's not been a conversation that we've had on this board before, but I think it's an important one to have.
33, I don't need to read these bullets to you, but although that large percentage of 33% of our staff are between the 1 and 3 years of experience in teaching, not just in our district, the average is 10.6 years, so that's the average number of years. So obviously we have a good spread to get to a 10.6 average. At the end of July, we had 41 certified and 65 classified vacancies. And we do utilize the H-1B1 visa process. We didn't do so as much in our current year hiring as we may look to do in the future under Dr. Stifler's leadership.
That is oh my goodness, it's so loud. That is a growing phenomenon, the utilization of international teachers. There will be a presentation at the School Boards Association conference in a couple of weeks, and thank you, Dr. Stifler, for allowing a couple of our
Yep.
international teachers be part of a panel there, because it's something that school board members need to understand, that it's being used, how it's being used, why it's being used, and how to make it most successful for those teachers and for those students.
Quick question is, would you mind giving a 30-second overview of what the H-1B one is, an international teacher, but what the stipulations are? Does it end at a certain number of years, so we're right back where we started from? Is there any caveats and the benefits and pros and cons? Just a quick short overview, if you don't mind.
I may not use the correct language in my description, but hopefully it'll make sense. And I'm learning as I'm new to the HR process and of course to that. So I'm learning, I'm gonna definitely use layman terms. And I'll use 2 employees we have as examples. We have a person that works in our IMT department, does a fantastic job. We have his wife, teacher, fantastic by everything I've heard. They apply for a visa, they get that visa, which allows them to work in the United States. PUSD functions as their sponsor in that process. And there's a lot of paperwork that goes along with that, and it's quite costly, I'll share. And then after a certain number of years in our district, we're able to, on behalf of that employee, apply for permanent residency. So the couple I was just speaking of, right now, the applications have been submitted for their permanent residency. And I do not foresee I see no signs at all that they would be leaving Peoria once they got permanent residency in the United States.
We have been very strong and very selective. There are districts that it can be very difficult. It can be also very difficult for the teacher. I worked with someone who previously, she was from the Philippines. She's a phenomenal teacher. The rules say she can't leave the United States. She had sick family members. She wanted to go visit at Christmas. She was not able to do so. She would lose the ability to keep going. There are tremendous rules and things like that, and the district has to be able to sign and say, I will vouch for this person to a much higher degree than we do for all the rest of our employees, and to do those sorts of things. Many districts, more and more districts are jumping on this process, and there are companies that will help you do that. So you'll see some districts that might have 30 or 35 or 40 teachers from India or the Philippines, but there's an extra layer with that.
Not knowing.
Right.
Not knowing much about it. It is certainly not an optimal solution for school districts,
Right.
but it seems like in desperate times it is a possible solution, partial solution.
Well, since it's so costly, how does that work out?
What generally
For
happens is, for us, I'm not sure exactly what we do on our foreign employees, but generally what you do is the employee bears the cost. They're coming from a place where they have no hope or prayer for a job. They leave, they pay a company to help them go through to get into the process a significant sum to do that. Or their family pays that so that one person can make it out and up. Sorry to be dreary, but in my experience, that's how that goes.
Okay.
We pay?
We pay.
Uh-huh.
Good. I didn't previously.
Sure. We did a stay survey at the end of the year last year to try to gather some information about what are the reasons that people stay here and don't leave Peoria. You've heard the family atmosphere mentioned. That definitely was confirmed in that survey data. So you see the 3 number 1 reasons. Of course, pay isn't one of them. We wouldn't have expected that, but professional fulfillment, I think working relationships with peers, we're in a people business, and I think, hopefully, we won't allow, although, of course, student learning is at the root of what we do, but, we gotta remember that what we do is about people and them wanting to be here and feeling fulfilled, so. And I don't know if this is a conversation we want to have now, but when you look at the survey data, I think it would be it's kind of interesting to kind of dissect it in geographic terms, like what the stay reasons are in the northern part of our district versus the southern part of our district. I think it reveals how different school cultures can be and how that impacts what it is that keeps people here.
One of those
So-
recommendations speaks specifically about school site leaders, principals, and the culture that they create for the retention of teachers. And we
Right.
just need to have that on our radar screen.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting that comment you just made would dovetail nicely with your second slide that talked about a 50% increase in teachers leaving in less affluent areas and how that affects Peoria, because Peoria spans a wide socioeconomic or geographic area as well.
Yeah, and through the special ed audit, that was interesting, some data that they asked us to put together, and so I hadn't looked at it in the way that they wanted it. And they were looking at what do the transfers look like within our district? Where are teachers going
And where they're leaving.
and where are they leaving? And I think we can kind of gather where they're going with those kinds of questions, but your prediction would probably be right if you said that we have teachers that are leaving our more challenging Title I Southern schools in our district and moving north. And that's probably something we need to talk about.
Or even schools which culture isn't quite as positive as another
Yes.
school.
Oh,
That
absolutely,
needs to be said.
Lots of opportunities here.
there are.
May I use your microphone, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, as we move into those strategies, you can take a look on the screen. There are just some things that we're currently doing in Peoria. And as Michelle has stated, and hopefully you've heard me say as well, we do have some data sets that we're looking at to try to guide our decision-making. I think we continue to offer that competitive salary and benefits package to our staff. We did have a pay increase last year, and I believe that benefited our staff greatly. One of the things that we're really trying to continue to push is our university partnerships, making certain that we keep in close contact with those representatives, trying to build our pipeline for educators inside our classrooms. We worked really hard this fall to stay connected to our student teachers and their advisors. And to date, I'm happy to report we have hired 4 of our student teachers, people coming right from our classrooms. Now they're going to be taking over their own class here in the spring semester, so we're really excited about that.
Dr. Stifler and colleagues, I think one thing we need to keep evaluating is the calendar. I'm getting mixed reports on the late start.
I'm getting mixed reports on the late start, too.
Mixed reports. Some teachers like it and some teachers don't. So we need to keep monitoring that. One criticism I have heard, though, is that teachers who are trying to spend that time collaborating with their colleagues are being interrupted for duty, some sort of duty. And if it's not an authentic work time, we need to work on ways to make it so.
Okay.
It's just interesting. Thank you for bringing that up, because as a board, that was one of the premier or prime considerations for going down that road, was it would be unrestricted, unadulterated time for the teachers. If an emergency comes up, of course, but that's something you'll need to review more strong before, obviously but before axing the program right away. That's supposed to be untouched time. And so if it's being touched time, then we need to be made aware of it as a board so they can make appropriate changes.
So if anybody's listening and thinks that everybody thinks the same way about that plan, I'm telling you legitimately, it's a mixed bag. Some people love it and some people hate it.
And it seems to be by site.
I wouldn't
My
say that's
perception.
true. I would
This
agree.
site loves it and can't believe that that site doesn't, and this site doesn't
Right.
love it and can't believe that that site does. I'm a liar when I report that.
I know.
Yeah, but how much of that perception, of course, you could ask 100 people and get 100 different opinions, but to that point, that's something we need to look at very closely. Is it being implemented correctly first? And then say, yes, it's being done exactly as we wanted it to be done, as everyone asked, and then it just didn't work out. Okay, that's one thing versus we wanted it to be this way, it's not being implemented correctly, and I hate it. That's a completely different problem to solve. So I would love to know, is it being implemented as we asked and directed it to be done? And then you're going left or right, either let's just get rid of it, or, oh, hey, it's working great now that it's true to its form. So that would be
We need to know
investigation
that.
first. Yeah.
Good
We need to
point.
know that by the
My
end of the school year.
repeated statements to staff over this semester has been, well, what, are we going to keep it? Well, we're gonna keep it for this year for sure. Then we're going to evaluate. We're not gonna change it right now.
Right.
We don't know if it's working or not. But with association members and others that have had conversations about concerns, with principals about concerns as well.
So when we ask, the question should be not just, do you like it or do you not like it, but if you do like it, what do you like about it? And if you don't like it, what don't you, and what could be changed to make it better?
Right, and we also, and this is about teacher retention and all that, but we also need to be doing that with our parents as well.
Right. And I'm getting a mixed bag from them too.
I've
Boy,
heard that
the
too.
people that hate it really hate it.
They're pretty clear about it.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Okay, for the sake of time, we're going to continue, and Michelle's going to highlight another best practice or current practice. You're going to talk about the meet and greet.
Yeah, I wanted to share. We tried something last year, and we called it a meet and greet, and we held it here in this room, and it occurred on a weekday from maybe 2:30 to 5. And the point of the meet and greet was to have those teachers that are certified in Arizona, currently work in other districts, who have always been interested in what goes on at PUSD, to just stop by and meet us and see.
Sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, it was great.
But,
It did work well.
oh, you had that look like, but,
Oh, I'm looking at Kathy's face
Oh.
like, did I say something wrong? It was good. It was interesting. And I had to share how we advertised about it. Was some of our staff went to some kind of training, and they came back and said, we have to try this thing called Starbertising. I'm like, what is that? And it was to use the community board in Starbucks. So we went all over the place and posted on the community board everywhere at Starbucks about this meet and greet. So it's kind of fun.
My look is because I'm no happier about empty classrooms in our neighboring districts than I am here.
Oh,
Right.
I get it.
Some new and innovative practices we'd like to highlight. Again, you can take a look at the slide there, but I think one of the important things, Dr. Stifler talked about how he and Ken went out and visited our campuses and did employee chats. After review of that data, the 5th and 6th greatest need from our staff was conversation about benefits and payroll. So our two departments have been collaborating this year in their scheduling with our principals to go out to the sites during the lunch times and are meeting with our employees, classified and certified both, just to serve as a resource and just to converse with them about those questions that may have, knowing that that was a great need and something we felt like we could handle real quickly. So again, remember what I said earlier, this is about, we're really looking at retaining our staff, and we believe that would be an important piece to continue. Another one on this slide that's new and up and coming is our employee assistance plan. The law changed a few years ago where this employee assistance plan could no longer be offered to every single employee unless you're getting benefits through our school district. We realize that needs to change, and what I mean by that is there's a great need coming from our employees, those with benefits and those without. And right now we can't really support those without with our employee assistance program. So with support from our Valley Schools Trust Board, we most recently are moving forward as of January 1 for all employees, including those in their household, to make certain that they have access to the employee assistance plan, which includes counseling. It could be mental health needs, it could be financial literacy, it could be just simple community resources for those that are struggling. So that's coming as of January 1, and we're really excited about that as it relates to retaining our staff.
I'd like to echo that. When we talk about military families, we talk about supporting, you want to support the military, also support their families. You want to support teachers, also support their families to the degree that you can. And so I'm proud of our district for being able to take that step. When you're in need and you have nowhere else to go, you have a teenager in crisis, and for the district be able to say, the district has this benefit for you and your family, that keeps somebody here.
I like it.
Okay, and Michelle?
We're running out of time, so I just want to highlight on this slide, new and innovative practices. There are lots of different things we're doing new, but the last bullet, competing to win. You're going to begin hearing a lot of conversation about our goal of getting contracts out to teachers much earlier this year than we have in the past. We are well on our way to preparing, doing the necessary work up front to make that happen. So I'm really excited about that prospect and think that it's going to become a reality.
What's our target date? You don't want to say it?
No, I do want to say it.
Yes, sir, go ahead, Mark.
March 9th.
I'm sorry, March 1.
Okay.
March 1. And contract negotiations, we won't know how much money we have. So we have to prepare the language so that employees are certain that whatever money comes actually goes to them. How can we have them do that? But how can Buckeye, Eric at Buckeye Darwin, we're issuing in January. It's like, how can you do that? I'm pushing it as far as I dare, right? In January, Buckeye Union is issuing contracts.
Wow.
All right, so if it is true, and it is true, that the pool of teachers is less, and all the 220 districts in Arizona and the 15,000 districts across the country and all the charters are looking to go to that pool, you can't wait to go to that pool. You can't start shopping for the very best teachers in July or June. We have to start now. We have to give letters of assurance. We have to give contracts where we can to shiny student teachers so as they graduate, they have a job. We're going to have to do some practices that districts didn't have to do previously. So we have a lot of things to do on what I would call the softer side that are harder to demonstrate. But on what will be visible right away to everyone, we're gonna go faster to find people, and we're gonna make it easier. The HR department has worked hard recently. I've heard some kudos from principals about some of the steps that the HR department is making to pre-check some references to make it easier for principals to hire people to do those things, so that people that are hired are pulled out of the pool, so their principals aren't wasting their time calling somebody who already has a job, or being in the position of cold calling people off monster.com or all of those sorts of things.
Yeah.
And I have been involved in those parties with 12 administrators sitting in a room, cold calling down lists. That is not how we want to fill our classrooms. That is not how we want to fill our classrooms. Sorry, I get a little excited about that.
More than just a warm body.
Mhm.
Absolutely, somebody worthy of our community and our kids.
So are we looking at perhaps, maybe some of the sites where the family feeling, if you will, is not as strong as
Yes,
others?
ma'am.
Are we looking at
Yes,
Like-
ma'am.
working with those people and
Yes,
saying
ma'am.
this is what we need, yeah?
And I want to say that is, I don't think that Peoria is desperate. Now the need has reached
Right.
Peoria, but other places are desperate. But even as difficult as that situation is, a bad hire is worse than a no hire.
Absolutely.
And no teacher wants to just know that there's a warm body next to that they have to cover and fix, and no principal wants that. And occasionally, and you saw it was kind of soft in there, that people aren't as prepared as they thought they were, and occasionally you see that in the HR report, where a teacher left after 2 weeks.
Mhm.
That's a good thing, that we're willing to exit people who don't belong here.
Right.
It doesn't make this problem any better, and yet it's still the right thing to do.
And I agree with Kathy, I don't like the surrounding places being without, but our first concern is Peoria, to just put it bluntly. I mean,
So we need to
if we can
introduce
get the best teachers, we're gonna get them from whoever.
Yeah.
That's my plan anyway.
R&D, rip-off and distributor approaching, or we can
Whatever.
institute a teacher draft. That'd be kind of cool.
Well, as we close, I just want to again say thank you for giving us the opportunity. We welcome further feedback, but I guess bottom line, every child matters to us. And I think it's safe to say that all of our staff matters as well. And so we work and will continue to work to do what's best for Peoria Unified School District.
I know we're out of time. I want to add one other thing. Peoria has done a very good job of making cuts as far away from the classroom as possible. But we need to acknowledge that cuts away from the classroom, what we mean by that is not a teacher.
Right.
But we shouldn't have anything working in our classroom that isn't supporting students. So I hear from teachers, when are we going to bring back? When are we going to bring back? When are we going to bring back? When are we going to bring back more assistants? When are we going to bring back this? When are we going to bring back that? And I try to be very straight up to say, that's not going to happen under the way Arizona currently is.
Mhm.
So I just want to put out there, when we make cuts, even if it's not a teacher position, right?
It affects.
It affects them, yeah.
I have been impressed as I've come to Peoria to watch how appreciative, for instance, our teachers are of assistant principals,
Mhm.
right? You take an assistant principal off of campus, a teacher's job just got a lot harder. Just got a lot harder,
Mhm.
right? All of those kinds of things, they're all attached.
Yep.
And so that's where we are regarding money. It's a difficult place.
One last idea, it's not dollars, and it's not even technically resources, but in some pockets on the internet and elsewhere, there's negative dialogue about teachers and the profession and public
Yes.
education. And one thing we can all do is counter those negative messages and talk about the quality individuals in our classrooms and what they do for kids every day.
We can help support each other to make sure we all do that, buoy each other up. And I'm also very proud to say that our public relations department is outstanding in that
Yes.
regard.
Definitely. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. We know this is a very hot topic for the board over the past couple of years, and I would imagine and hope and believe it'll continue to be a hot topic from the point of view of staying informed, but more importantly, what can the board do to help in our small sphere of influence in the big scheme of things? How can we help make this process go better, go more smoothly, and have more of a fruitful effect at the very end? So that's why we like these continual conversations, because it helps us to make the right decisions and to be a loud voice for what's going to make PUSD far more successful. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good.
Thank you. Okay, we'll take a couple-minute break, and then we'll start our regular board meeting.
Michelle, Carter, nicely done.
Are we moving up there?
Oh, you still have 45 seconds to talk. I didn't want to shut you down so quick. That's why I did the 60-second thing. So yeah, by all means, go about your business.
Sitting up there for a while. I think that's
Ms. Stone, are you logged in?
Yes.
And Connect, you
Yep.
logged in?
Yep.
Okay. Ms. Are you logged in? Okay.
But there's no meeting to join yet, right?
I just started it just now. You should be able to join now. To my digital brothers, are we good to go?
just about. Policy
Okay.
updates getting
No problem.
switched.
There we go.
Well, they are my digital brothers. That's what I do for a living. I'm a geek. I'm proud of it.
Yes.
Why we always need a reboot every now and then. We always need a reboot every now and then.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, everyone, thank you. I'll bring the meeting to order. My favorite gavel that I use that, right? Ms. McCarty, the gavel, not the Thor hammer. Thank you everyone for being here. Two quick announcements before we get started. Mr. John again had a family matter and he will not be joining us tonight, but the rest of us are ready for everything. And we'd like to also honor and recognize our favorite council member from my district, of course, Ms. Bridget Binsbacher from the Peoria City Council in the back. Thank you for being here tonight. Thank you. No, don't be shy. How awkward when one person claps and everyone else said, do you think they know each other? All right. All right, so we'll start the meeting. Pledge tonight by Regan Leonard from Centennial. And we're going to go ahead and join us for a moment of silence. If you'll go ahead and stand up, we'll do about a 30-second moment of silence to kind of gather our thoughts. And then Regan will start us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Regan. We'll be hearing from much more from you and your team shortly. All right, let's move on to the next item. Obviously, our favorite part of the night is, well, actually, almost our favorite part of the night. Oh, did I just say that when I was expecting staff recognitions? That was painful. I'm sorry, Mr. Hicks. Our favorite part of the night with Mr. Hicks is our public hearing pursuant to ARS Section 15948C and D and Section 15905D for review of revision number 1 to maintenance and operations and district additional assistant budgets for the fiscal year 2016-2017. Mr. Hicks, thank you for being here. You're also one of my favorite parts of the night. Before Mr. Hicks begins, we just need a motion and a second.
Mr. Bullock, I move that we convene a public hearing.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. I got so excited again. Board members, please cast your vote. And there we go. 4-0, 1 absent. Great. Now we're ready, Mr. Hicks. I apologize.
Good evening, President Bullock, members of the Governing Board, Superintendent Dr. Darwin Stifler, staff, community members. It is my pleasure to be here before you tonight to present our first budget revision of the year. It is also truly a pleasure to be here before the room clears out to hear my presentation. It is nice to know that I have somewhat of a captive audience that are somewhat listening to me. So before I go through the brief overview of what our changes are, I thought I'd just start with just trying to explain how difficult this is right now, where we're at. Just looking at some of our Arizona Department of Education reports, we have various information, and so I'll try to summarize it the best I can as we go through it, but we have increases and decreases from carry forward. That is standard. Our December revision is traditionally we will then We put in some estimated carry forward, and then we put it in what the actual is, because in October you approved our annual financial report. We also have prior year adjustments from the prior year that are both increases and decreases from issues from transportation, and you could be aware, remember our performance audit that identified some transportation that we were generating too much money, and so we had to reduce that. So we have some reductions there. We have growth that was not known at the time we did our budget revision last year, and because they continue to do ADM to the end of year all the way to September 9th, we don't know that amount until the end. And so you have ups and downs going. And then we have ADM this year, so our average daily membership, which is the basis of what we get funded. But this year we switched to the current year funding. And this is something I've been somewhat vocal against, that it was the bad timing to switch to an AZ Edge, which is the platform of which they take the data in and switch to current year funding in the same year. And so right now, if you look, you go out there, you'll be able to see 3 different reports, one that shows a decrease of 60 students, one that shows a decrease of 20 students, and one that shows an increase of 60 students. I could randomly pick whichever one I want. If you look and looking at our system, we pulled up information in our system, and the latest upload that we got from, or download we got from our student system actually almost wiped out all of our data and had error, and they have to delete all of our latest upload data because of the AZ Ed's issue. We also, if you look at another report, show that we lost 400 special ed students, which I know we did not lose 400 special ed students. So my caveat is we have lots of up and downs going on, but we also have the difficulty of trying to project the budget for this year with trying to do current year funding at the same time we're doing the AZ Edge transition, which is their platform situation. And that is still, just talking to about 5 districts yesterday, everybody is still, we're not like one of our neighboring districts that lost 4,000 students, but not knowing those 20, 60, 80, are we increasing, are we decreasing? I know this time of year we always have a little bit of down and increase because of AOI and concurrencies, and I know that some of those will go away. AOI is our online instruction program, and you do not know students are taking those or completing them until they finish their course completion, and then if they're not taking them with us, we lose the funding, but we don't know that up front. And so some of that funding you don't know. Like I just said, our AFR, we did not know the growth until September 9th. So a couple months after the year is done when we'll get our final budget revision. So as we go through, just as we've already mentioned, in accordance, we are having a public hearing because our analysis shows that any time that you revise the budget and you change the RCL, you need to get in front of the public and have an opportunity for our public to speak and to have that public hearing. And so this satisfies that requirement. Going into our maintenance and operation fund, we originally adopted the budget back in this summer at $207 million. We have an increase of $3.8 million. So the revised budget's going to $211 million. So this is mainly due to our budget year, prior year adjustment, and the carry forward. The carry forward was determined. We knew this as we were talking and we were presenting our budgets. And the last year's budget, we were not spending the Prop 123 money in the current year, and we were rolling that forward. So we knew that between our capital, our district additional assistance, and the current year, and the maintenance and operation fund, we were carrying forward a substantial amount of money in that sense. And so this represents that carry forward that was planned because part of our budget process was to spend that money in this year. So we rolled it forward, and we've already spent it and committed into that sense. The next is the district additional assistance fund, and so that originally started at the $7.8 million. We've increased also the $3 million because we were spending some of it, the Prop 123 money in capital funds on the one time. We also had a prior year budget adjustment. Obviously, we revised our carry forward balance as well. This one we do have a little bit different, is that we also had an increase in the budget reduction. So we're hopefully you're aware that we normally should be getting $17 million. It's cut down to $15 million. There was a slight increase in that, and that will continue to fluctuate through the year, much like last year. Whatever we adopted, that cut continues to grow. That is part of how they passed the legislation, which is they were reducing a fixed number and not a fixed amount on every per student. So it was, hey, we will reduce school districts by, say, $360 million, and I think I'm a little off on that number, but roughly close. As the ADM within those districts changes, that means the cut can either go up or down, and there's a bunch of exempt districts. Those that are small are not applicable to the cut, or those that are not an equalization district, meaning that they don't receive the money from the state because their property values are so high, are exempt as well. And so our cut varies. So we're now up to about an 87% of our capital funds are cut. for a district in that sense. Part of that, we knew that. We were transferring some of our Prop 123, the one-time money was coming into capital for student instructional resource material, and this reflects that increase coming over as we increase our carry-forward budget. The classroom site fund, that is also increasing, so we adopted that at $15 million. The increase is about $1.1 million and going up to $17 million. This is, as a reminder, this is the Prop 301 that you hear a lot about, and so you'll probably start hearing in the news about the continuation of Prop 301, is that technically expires in about 3.5 years. And so that's the 1 cent sales tax, or not 1 cent, 0.6% sales tax that generates funds that goes into a classroom site fund. It actually goes into 3 separate funds, Fund 11, Fund 12, and Fund 13. 20% of the money goes into Fund 11, which is for base compensation. 40% goes into Fund 12, which is performance pay for teachers, and Fund 13 is what's called menu items. Between Fund 11 and 13, we give 100% of that to our certified staff. And so we do not use that for additional allocations. I know I say this a lot. Prior to what we'll call the Great Recession, about 75% of Fund 13 went to teacher salaries and 25% went to the school principal for additional professional development as they saw fit. But as that amount went down, that was the first thing to cut. And as it's gone back up, we've left it at only going to teacher compensation in that sense. You can see the biggest increase is the Fund 12. Really is almost all of that 1.1 million. We estimate the carry forward in the other 2 funds. I do estimate that I take a conservative approach and assume that we'll pay out all of the performance pay, because at the time we're adopting these budgets and understanding, we have not done the full evaluation and have the payout of our performance pay, where on Fund 11 and 13, we're at the end of the year and I know how much we've spent out of those amounts. So I normally assume almost no carry forward, and so this is really truly setting the actual carry forward going forward. These amounts can only be spent in those areas, which is certified teachers, and so that we continued. Fund 12 will stay in Fund 12, which is performance pay. That's already been factored in for this year's budget. So even though I have a paper on the side that's kind of estimating the actual budget, we assume that it's with no carry forward in that sense. Just quickly on some others, if you're looking through the attachments and you see, I normally look at the first 8 pages of the expenditure budget. Looking at the end of that, towards the end, on page 6 is the other funds, or 5 and 6. Federal grants, we had a few, but our process is we keep it the same as the previous year until it's officially approved at the state level through our ADE Connect grant program. And so we go online. As soon as they officially approve it, we will put in the new amount in. And so there are a few minor changes to that, but we still have some grants that at the time when we put this together, they had not been officially approved by ADE. We used last year's number until that number gets put in. So we're mainly talking our title funds, our IDA funds are the biggest, the state, because we've lost so much of the state grants. We do the same where we estimate, but there's really a lot less of the state grants because so many of those have gone away. Other funds, this is not the time when we make a lot of changes to other funds. Those are cash funds, and so we normally wait to our budget revision in May that we'll make a bunch of those movements, because really there could be a lot of variation within the year. And so one fund could go way up because we're raising a lot more money, and the schools they're going to spend that money. We don't know that right now in November when we're putting this together, and so we wait until that time. But one we did know right off the bat is our indirect cost fund, and so we did increase that right now because we know that we're going to be spending more money out of that fund. So I just wanted to kind of summarize. I know I'm talking a lot and going through. We had prior year budget adjustments, and that was in M&O and the capital funds. And then we had the carry forward, which was in the 3 funds, which is the M&O, the capital, and then also the classroom site fund. Additional reduction in capital is only the district additional assistance. Increased in interest in the classroom site fund and also the carry forward for classroom site fund. And then we had the ADM adjustments that hit. Really, it was growth because for our budget that we adopted, because I have the confusing nature of which ADM is going on, where is going up, I actually just held it the same and said whatever we adopted on, we'll keep it the same. So I would anticipate our May revision will have an adjustment for ADM. Continue to work with Jill and John and their team looking at what our ADM is. We actually have a nice enrollment app that they built for us to monitor, and I look at that pretty much every few days just to make sure there's no major variations. I don't believe there's going to be any major variations, but there will be some minor adjustments that we'll have to make in May regarding that. So summary, you're looking at just the M&O 3.8, district additional, what I call capital, 3.1, and then our classroom site fund of 3.1. And so I will stand for any questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hicks. Start to my right, Ms. Pangarelli, comments, questions?
No questions.
Okay. Mrs. Doan? Okay.
No
Ms.
questions.
Two quick questions for you. I know it's probably too early to tell, but are you at a point to answer that crystal ball question that we always ask every year that I bring up because I'm always deathly afraid of our credit rating dropping because of our cash balance being so low? Is it at any appropriate time to estimate what our cash balance may be towards the end of the year? Because again, when I first started on the board, it was about $6.
Yeah.
And then it went up to about $1 million, a little bit more than $1 million, and you lose sleep at night if it's less than 3 or 4 million. Is it too early to predict that?
President Bullock, members of the board, it does, so our last AFR was a little bit up, and where we are right now does show our cash balances up a little bit. Now, we do have the challenge of Prop 206. We're still meeting. We're going to the webinar, or we're going to be watching the webinar. That is the minimum wage increase. That ultimately, I think we have roughly 400 some people that would impact just going forward in January. So we have some increases you'll see at our next board. We'll have to bring back to you on adjusting some salary placement and other schedules that we have. That has an impact right now. I don't think it'll have huge. It could only be 100,000. We did have the FLSA that was just frozen, so we did not implement that. The new Fair Labor Standards Act had an overtime aspect that was changing the minimum salary requirement and doubling that, so you either had to move people to hourly or you had to give them huge pay increases. That was having a huge impact. So there are still some that haven't had that we don't know what the actual impact is because we're still working through that. We're still working through the legalities of what Prop 206 means. I know we have to implement it January 1st, but we still have a lot more questions unanswered than answered. But I believe right now we're trending in the right direction that it would. The question, all of our indicators right now continue to be positive, and we've had, I think, 2 years of moving positive. Rating agencies don't like to just go off of 1 year. They like to see a trend. And so 2-3 years, is there a chance that we would have a ratings increase and that would save our taxpayers money? I think there's a chance. I think the way we're going, not this next year, but the following year and a year and a half when we go to sell bonds, I think we would see one that way because they would see a definite trend in their cash position get a lot better in that sense.
Great, because that saves us.
It saves taxpayers'
Well, it saves
money.
taxpayers' money, and, you know, we're all property owners around here and pay our taxes. One comment or question that will come up, I just know it, is that you basically showed in the previous slide, you don't need to go back, approximately $8 million of additional money based on the projection. I realize things can change. And just to be really clear that I know the question will come, well, you've got additional money, you didn't really need your bond, but just to clarify that $8 million, and those are already used for other areas. A new elementary school costs about $17 million, a new high school about $75 million. We have about $80-90 million of deferred maintenance that needs to be done in our schools. So while $8 million is great, that goes to areas that can't pay for it. So just, again, that's, and again, I understand why that question will come up, but just I'm glad you clarified that.
President Bullock, members of the board, let me just be very clear. So of the classroom site fund, that is going to teachers, and that $1.1 million has to stay in that fund. That is not going anywhere else. Of the rest, you have about $7 million. We rolled over about $7 million for Prop 123 that was going in and committed to a math adoption and one-time payouts and salaries. And so that money was part of the budget process last year. This is just rolling forward our budget balances and our budget adjustments coming forward into this year. We had already had part of our budget process to spend that money. So that has already been committed in that sense. And so it would be wrong if anybody took off and just looked at that one side and saw balances and said, oh, we don't need this. There is still a need. I just told you our capital continues to be cut a little bit more. We're down to 87-88% of our capital is cut. That creates a severe issue that if that's not addressed either at the state level, the legislative level, we will have to address it ourselves, and that really means reductions on the M&O side to transfer money into the capital side to solve those issues. Because the capital needs are great. Our licensing, the computers that we buy, There's capital licenses that go along with those. And so those cost a lot of money. In fact, we spend at the very minimum around $2 to $3 million. We were spending $4 million. We've made cuts to everybody's budget. But I will tell you, almost every single school or department is continuing to ask me for more capital funds, or they are transferring their M&O into the capital right now. So that problem exists and continues and will not be solved anytime soon. The bond was not solving really hardly any of that. It was really for the growth. The growth is not happening. We have growth in lots of areas, but the bond was addressing a build out in 3 to 4 years or 4 to 5 years. It was nothing. We were having to have our own problems and solve those problems for the next few years anyway. So if anybody draws any conclusion of a budget this year to not passing a bond is not needed, that it's a false connection, because the two aren't connected whatsoever.
Good. I just want to make that clear, and I'm glad you brought that up, so thank you very much. All right, thank you very much, Mr. Hicks.
Just one
And-
point I wanted
oh, yeah.
to make, you know, when we do these hearings and when we do our budget conversations, people hear these huge numbers, and it sounds like a lot of money, and it is a lot of money, but I think it helps to put into context that we have 37,000 kids and 42 schools, and how many employees?
Roughly 4,000.
4,000 employees. So when people think about that kind of money, remember the size of the organization and how many families and citizens of our community this organization serves.
President Bullock, members of the board, I would agree there's a context of what our underlying ADM is, but I'll be honest, our superintendent, when he started, we go around talk. I say the same thing he does. We both say the same thing. We have $200 million, so if somebody comes with one problem, it's just how we prioritize and how we spend that. We have a certain expectation with a class size, which is lower than most all of our surrounding districts. We have the arts and our specials is what I call it, that we have a greater number of specials, but how you prioritize is really the devil in the details, because we really do have $211 million, and how are we going to spend that? If there's just one thing we need to, and we only have one priority, we could solve that. The reality is we have a lot of competing issues and you heard our conversation earlier about our teacher retention and attraction, and how are we doing that? That's competing with Prop 206, when we're going to have to increase our minimum wage. By the time 2020, that's roughly around a $1.7 million, and that does not talk about solving compression issues. And so how are we dealing with that competing issue to solve a teacher attraction retention issue? They're all competing, and that's part of what our budget process and part of interacting with you is all about.
Thank you, Mr. Hicks.
Great, thank you. Our item on the agenda, number 6, is going to be
President
our...
Bullock?
Oh, sorry.
At this time, we have to keep it open to see if anybody else would like, any of the public would like to speak
Oh,
on the
I'm
budget.
sorry, I didn't see any green slips. I didn't... Okay, it's an open public forum. My apologies. Okay,
Is there anyone in the public who would like to address this topic?
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
thank you very much, Mr. Hicks. All right, item number 6 is consideration to adjourn the public hearing as an action item, so I need a motion and a second to leave that and go back to regular meeting. Do I have a-
Mr. Bullock, I move to adjourn the public hearing.
Okay, do you have a second?
I'll second.
Great, please cast your votes. No problem. All right, 4-0, one absent. Thank you very much. Now, on to also our favorite part of the evening, staff recognitions with our PR director, Mrs. Airy.
Good evening, President Bullock, members of the board, Dr. Stifler. I know Mr. Hicks was trying to steal my thunder there for a moment, but anyway, we are here with just another exceptional recognition this evening, and always so pleased to bring you our all-star students, our all-star student athletes that we have to present to you this evening. We are very proud to highlight our incredibly talented girls volleyball team from Centennial High School, who recently won the 5A state title trophy. Including their 4 playoff games, the Centennial volleyball team was 21-0 this season and secured the championship with a win on November 9th against Sunny Slope. The final game was tough as the two teams battled back and forth with 19 lead changes. However, our team persevered, and we are so proud to have them here this evening and so proud to be congratulating them on an incredible win. They are represented this evening by four very fine young ladies, the team captains. They are, and ladies, I'll ask you to stand when you hear me call your name, Kara Spicer, Danny Wiley, Reagan Leonard, and Tatum Yinger, and we are so proud of them. Let's give them a quick round of applause. Ask you to make your way up here and come join me here behind the podium. As you're making your way over here, I will say that, of course, they are led by a wonderful coach. They are under the direction of Miss Carrie Bauer. Miss Bauer, if you would stand so we can recognize you. Thank you. Thank you. And Miss Bauer has been at Centennial for 21 years and is truly passionate about Centennial volleyball, so big congratulations to you. A few others in the room that we need to recognize this evening. Brett Palmer, who's here representing Centennial Administration, the athletic director there. Thank you, Mr. Palmer. Also, our district athletic director, Mr. Mike Sievertson, is here this evening. Thank you, Mr. Sievertson. And then, ladies, do you have any family members that are here supporting you this evening? If they could stand so we could recognize them for supporting the team. Appreciate what you do. And without any further ado, I'm going to get out of the way because I'm sure you have some comments and questions. So, Governing Board, I present to you the girls volleyball team from Centennial High School.
We are very excited. Yes, don't be shy. We always have questions. And when we're all done, then we'll bring them up here. We'll get out of the way and take plenty of pictures. And the only requirement we have is whether you know them or not, post it and say that they're best friends or friends of your family or nieces or something, just to get the buzz. And by the way, congratulations to your school. You have, as I've said before, a quasi-college program. That's how good you are in all of your sports. So congratulations. All right, ladies, who's going to be representative to answer our questions tonight? Tatum, you have one option to say no and bring your friend back up who volunteered you. Good enough. I will start with my right over here, Ms. Pangarelli.
Oh, I just want to say competition is always good, especially when you win. Congratulations. Are you guys going to go on to college and looking for scholarship money in volleyball?
President Bullock, members of the board, and Dr. Stifler. Yes, I'm playing next year at Fresno State in California, and Kara is playing at Appalachian, and Danny's playing at Chaminade in Hawaii. So.
Oh, poor Danny.
Can't forget Tatum here. She's not playing next year, but she's gonna go to University of Colorado at Boulder and do something in the health field.
Excellent.
Nice. Wonderful. Ms. Stone.
Well, I just really want to say congratulations, and
Thank you.
it's a good way to, have extra family kind of to be part of a sports team, and I'm glad you found that, and I hope you keep it. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Mrs. Connect.
That's awesome. Congratulations. I'm sure you learned more than just volleyball with the learning from each other and your coach. Coach, congratulations. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for mentoring these young women. Wish you great success in whatever you do.
Thank you.
Okay, I have a question for the team and also the coach. Would you mind going up there too? You're not going to escape the public attention. We've talked about this before, and competition, which sports is a very, very important part. It dovetails nicely with academics if you're taught correctly. I know you are. So we'll say, what is the number one connection that you've learned between sports and your academics? And either one of you can choose. Let's do Danny, because she's going to Aloha, by the way. So Danny, again, competition sports are great and they're important. Academics is equally important. A lot of times you'll talk to people in sports and there's a connection. They go together. Can you elaborate on that? You've had success, extreme success in the sports. I know you're a very good student. What is the connection between sports and competition and academics and performance?
President Bullock, members of the board, Dr. Stifler. I think at times it can be hard to balance your schoolwork and playing sports all year round. But I think having the connection of sports and school, well, obviously playing at Centennial High School, you're at a school. So you have to be able to have good grades to be able to play. And I think it kind of makes it easier having practice right after school, having your other teammates in your classes so you can go to them for help if need be.
No, that's good. Let me kind of dovetail. You can choose someone else on your team there to answer the second question, so go ahead. I was just waiting for that to happen. She answered it very well on how the two are connected. How's the best way to ask this question? When you look at how your schoolwork is done and your competition, what would you say is the number one thing that you could tell up-and-coming students like freshmen or eighth graders becoming freshmen about participating in sports in school? How would you talk to somebody who's looking to you as a mentor, as a successful sports participant? What would you tell them to have them reach the success you have and have the great opportunity that you had? What would you mentor them? What was 30-second mentor program?
President Bullock, members of the board, I would say that being on a team builds character in a classroom and out of the classroom and on the court. And you can always, your teammates have most likely been through that class that you've been into, so it's easy to find people who can tutor you in that class and just help you out.
That's good. Good. Thank you. Because realistically, and we talk about this when other students are honored like this, you're now, and this sounds bad, but you're not bad, but you're elevated. You're on a pedestal now with your success you've achieved. So how can you give back to other students who are now coming into Centennial and other high schools for that matter? How can they achieve success? Because they'll look to you. Everyone looks. When you were younger, you did the same thing. You look to successful people. I want to be like him. I want to be like her. You now are her. And so you've got to figure out a great way to give back because that will only accelerate your success. So thank you for bringing that up. Coach, do you mind answering a question? Okay, good. A two-part question. First, what is the number one thing that you teach your players to help them create success? And the second thing is, what's the number one thing you tell parents of younger kids to help them achieve success with their kids? Because really it's a family affair. Although the players are right there, but the families are here to support them. So what do you tell incoming students who want to participate in your program to be successful, one technique or one characteristic? And what do you tell parents to help them help their kids to be successful?
President Bullock, members of the board, and Dr. Stifler, again, thank you for having us. As kids come into our program, one of the main things that we instill to anyone who's trying out for our program is that they're going to be representing. They're going to be representing our program, the school, the district, and everything that they do. And so there's more to just running kids through tryouts and picking out, the most athletic one. We're looking at well-rounded people that are going to make sure that they represent us. And then once they are on the team, we have leaders like this that are always the older classmen that will make sure that the younger ones do kind of understand what that means for sure, what they look like when other students are walking down the hallways, what they're like in the classrooms for the other teachers. There's lots of community service that this team has done even outside of the classroom. Cool. And so it's a big picture thing. It's not, this group right here, their teammates and our whole program, they've made you very proud as far as what they've done in the classroom, in the community, and then obviously on the court.
Right.
As far as the parents are concerned, that's always a bird that you kind of deal with as a coach. But my philosophy is just trying to ask them to come in and cheer for their kid, cheer for their daughter, cheer for the team. It's, volleyball is a year-round sport. There's a club portion of it. Mm-hmm. The high school season seems to be more refreshing and a little bit less, they're not paying thousands of dollars for their kid to play high school volleyball. But we really just want them to come in, and we have a parent group that just is, tell us what to do, we can help you. And so, as coaching staff, we just coach, and the kids just play, and they help out and do all the behind-the-scene things, feed them like they're queens and all kinds of things, wash their dirty knee pads and things. And so we've been very blessed at Centennial with parents that understand that role and sit back, and then once the ball's in the air, they're rooting for the team, hopefully.
Awesome. That's cool to see that you're instilling, have fun. Come cheer the kids on, have fun. It's for fun. You know, it can lead to something,
And
scholarships
that's one of
and
the
stuff,
things
but
during huddles. I mean, very few times this season, things weren't, I mean, we had a great run. Things were not going well very few times. And I would say, what is our number one goal here? And they knew. It's what? Have fun.
good.
So.
Thank you for instilling that. Wonderful. We'll give you a round of applause for your success. And then we're going to get out of the way. Would you mind posing for some pictures? I know some of the parents and friends and staff would like to have pictures as well.
Right in the middle there. And we'll get your photo. And parents, if you want to come get a better angle, feel free to come up. Get one? Okay. Congratulations again. Big round of applause for Centennial Volleyball.
Mrs. Airy? Okay. Dr. Stifler?
Yes, sir. If I can, that's a very tough act to follow. And as was pointed out, the athletics program at Centennial is exemplary. Thank you, Brad. Thank you, all staff, but thank you for that. So also a shout out to the boys congratulations to the Centennial High school football team for going all the way to the state championship. While they didn't clinch the 5A state championship against Williams Field last week this year, they still had a very successful season. These student athletes, led by Coach Richard Taylor, do a great job of continuing the Centennial powerhouse tradition. Also fun here, congratulations to an Ira A. Murphy junior high teacher, Allison Cully, who received a $1,500 grant from the Arizona Diamondbacks for a house program that promotes leadership skills, teamwork, and good character, and they're presenting her this grant on December 16th. I'd also like to recognize Zuni Hills Elementary School for participating in their annual #LovePup fundraiser. Their school community donated more than 700 items to the pet charitable organization, and local radio host celebrity from KISS FM, John J. Van Ness, I'm sure you listened to him, came out to recognize the school and collect the donated items. And this evening, the Peoria Police Department is hosting the 2016 Community Partnership Awards ceremony and dinner. The Community Partnership Awards recognizes individuals and organizations for their support of the police department's efforts to strengthen their relationship with the community and to keep our neighborhoods safe. We congratulate the following Peoria Unified students who are receiving the awards this evening, and I hope to zoom over there right after this meeting. Lily Cothran from Centennial High School, Jade Portia from Centennial High School, Brandon Hang from Centennial High School, Alyssa Pierce from Peoria High School, and finally Anthony Schultz from Peoria High School. Here endeth my report.
Gee, Centennial, what are you doing wrong? Congratulations. All right, move on to the next item on our agenda is our board recognitions. Gives a board a chance to talk about things they want to recognize that have happened over the last 2 weeks, whether a school event or whatnot. We'll start again with, on my right, Ms. Pangarelli.
Oh, I just wanted to thank everybody that came out and helped with the special education audit that was last Monday.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Doan.
I don't really have any recognitions, but I want to say I hope everybody's enjoying the Thanksgiving and Christmas season and having a good time. I know that it's a busy time of year and exciting, and I just want to say Merry Christmas to everybody.
Merry
It's
Christmas.
coming.
Yeah. Mrs. Connect.
So I put off, last time, I skipped some things so now they're here. So forgive me for going on. I'll try to make it brief. First of all, I took part in many Veterans Day celebrations earlier in November, and wow, collectively, this school district does so many amazing, heartwarming, patriotic things. I want to thank particularly Sundance and Apache and Pioneer and Desert Harbor and Kellis High School. For those things that I saw, they were all unique and special in their own way. They were fabulous. I attended the ASBA legislative workshop, learned a lot about that, got to hear from a panel of legislators making their predictions for next year, 2 Democrats, 2 Republicans, very interesting things. Our own Ken Hicks was on a panel, spoke frankly and about the challenges that we face, especially with current year fundings, and I appreciate your candor and your expertise, and you represent us very, very well. Also, I took part in the 109th Arizona Town Hall with about 80 citizens from across the state of Arizona, and the topic was funding the future of Arizona. And I won't get into the details. If you're very, very interested in that kind of thing, there is a final report on the Arizona Town Hall website. But I will report to this group that almost immediately, once the conversation started, this bipartisan group from every type of community across the state proclaimed loud and clear that the #1 thing that the state of Arizona needs to invest in for a prosperous future for its citizens is public education. So that was a very good time well spent. I am on the Peoria Chamber, and they had a fundraiser for scholarships for ROTC students from Peoria High School and also Cactus High School. So I went to that fundraiser. I want to thank the Peoria Chamber for those efforts and also to congratulate the ROTC students who, as always, do a phenomenal job representing the district and their schools in the color guard and in general. And then finally, talking about brag-worthy things that our students do, the ASBA annual conference is in a couple of weeks, and the Peoria School District arts programs are going to be featured heavily during the Wednesday and Thursday. So current and future board members are invited, and I hope you will come and help me cheer on and be proud of our students and our arts programming here in Peoria. And I believe that is all I have. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. I have one item. This will be, I think, odd, but I'm going to bring it up anyway. It's actually a little self-serving, but it'll make sense when I'm done. In 2 weeks will be my last board meeting after a 4-year run. I've enjoyed it heavily, and talk more about that next time. The reason I bring that up is that over the past 2 months, when people found out I wasn't running again and wondering what's going on, I've got several emails, a couple of phone calls, and out and about, even at our CTA career day that I was there, people asking, probably 30 plus people have asked, is there something wrong? Did you not like it? Was it not what you thought it was going to be? Why didn't you rerun? All that kind of stuff. So just for the record, because we're being videoed here.
It's not me.
It wasn't Kathy. It's actually, quite honestly, the reason I did not run again is because you've all taught me so much. I've actually realized that the real problems with education are at the next level. And so if all goes well, I'm taking a year off to get my day business in order. And again, if all goes well, I'm going to be running for a state office in 2018 to try and be a loud voice for education. So the reason I bring that up, maybe not appropriate here, but okay, go ahead and recall me. I don't really care at this point, but I just want to make sure, because I had so many people asking, did you not like it? There's something went wrong, whatever. I want to make sure I'm leaving on the correct note, that it actually went so well that I want to continue to try, and again, anything can happen a year from now, but I want to continue to the next level to hopefully be a strong voice for other issues too, but for education. And I've got a lot to learn still, and if all goes well, I'll come back and be picking a lot of brains, but it's for actually a great reason why I didn't rerun, and thank you all for your help for that. So I want to make sure that's well documented, that I love Peoria. That's why I want to continue going on, and I'm not stopping. So yeah, anything can happen, but that's the plan. So I love you guys. It's not that I don't like you guys.
May I comment to that?
Yes.
I think I'm one of the people that's really, really sad that you didn't join us here on the board, but I agree with your assessment. You have an awful lot to offer, and I really admire your commitment and your understanding of public education, and I look forward to the day when you can represent our community in the legislature.
Well, I hope it goes that way, but thank you. Anyway, enough that. I just wanted to set the record straight, so thank you very much, and I appreciate the kind words. All right, next item on the agenda is number 9, request to address the governing board regarding matters not included on the agenda. Mrs. McCarty, do we have any speaking requests tonight? Okay, and that's 2 times no one has spoken, and we feel bad. We feel we're taking that personal. So please, it's open. Anybody gets 3 minutes to talk to the board about anything on your mind. Does not have to be on the agenda. Help us make Peoria better. We desperately and want your help. So thank you very much. That's a call for next time. All right, number 10, address agenda and consider adoption or recommend changes. There's a chance for board members to rearrange the agenda for any reason. Any agenda changes?
No.
Okay, we will proceed as posted. All right, number 11, consideration of revision number 1 to the maintenance and operation and district additional assistance budgets for the fiscal year 2016-2017. Mr. Hicks, this slide looks awfully familiar.
President Bullock, members of the board, I have nothing additional
Okay.
to add.
This is an action item, so I'm just going to make a quick call out to my fellow board members to make sure there are no additional questions or comments to make sure we're good, because it's always a budget issue. Comments or questions? Okay. Then we need a motion and a second to bring this to a vote, which we discussed a little earlier this evening. Do I have a motion for this item?
Mr. Bullock, I move to approve the revisions to the fiscal year 16-17 expenditure budget.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you very much. Cast your vote, please. And passes unanimously. Thank you very much, fellow board members. Next item on the agenda, number 12, review and consideration of approval of Peoria Unified School District's Proposition 301 Teacher Performance Pay Plan for the 2016-2017 school year. And Mr. Davidson, welcome aboard, sir.
Mr. Dr. Davidson.
Davidson.
Carter will work just fine, but thank you for either
Let's
one
start
of those
all
titles,
over.
yeah.
Dr. Carter Davidson, welcome aboard, sir.
Thank you, President Bullock, members of the board, Dr. Stifler. Great pleasure tonight to come and just kind of review, in some cases, the performance pay plan for the Peoria Unified School District, and of course, to answer any questions that you may have as well. As you can see, we're going to look at a few items tonight. First of all, just how it relates to state law, and thank you, Mr. Hicks, for highlighting some of my slides, and luckily we are aligned, so that's exciting. Also, just to take a look at ADE's interpretation, as well as to just give you a little bit of the proposed plan for 16-17, with the ultimate hopes that this is a plan that will give our teachers the greatest opportunity to earn the greatest amount of money. As we move forward and you take a look at that slide there, basically what we want to highlight, as Mr. Hicks stated, is that there is 3 pots that were dedicated part as Proposition 301, with fund number 12, I believe, that's dedicated strictly to performance pay. And that is just the brief summary there again, that we have 40% of that total pot of money dedicated to our teachers' performance pay. As we move forward, I think the biggest piece that we want to highlight here is that we're going to continue to implement the components and required legislation surrounding teacher evaluation and performance pay, and that again, that our teachers are rewarded for their performance and the contributions that they make to both their students, their school, our district, and their community. As we look at how the Department of Education interprets the performance pay plan, if you take a look again, that's a piece that comes from the state law there, that we needed 33% of that Fund 12 to be dedicated toward a teacher's performance classification. And you see there that there is 4 levels that a teacher can, I guess, essentially be labeled there: ineffective, developing, effective, and highly effective. And Peoria has a great plan in place to ensure that teachers have a comprehensive way to get their performance label, but also that they're rewarded appropriately for their labels. It's important to note that this is a proposed plan for the 16-17 school year, and that this plan mirrors the ones that have been implemented in the last 2 years, and I'd like to add as well that they are successfully implemented. We chose to support, excuse me. Oh, maybe that was one of those extra slides. I apologize. It looks like the budget piece came up here. But again, what we wanted to highlight here is that you can see we had a certain level of expenses there from all 3 of those pots, and that, yes, it's really just showing you how we budgeted in years past and where we are for this school year as it relates to Proposition 301. with Fund 12 being that little over $6,800,000 range.
Dr. Davidson, quick question for you, just to recap that, because we talked about it earlier before and in previous study sessions. That additional increase or proposed for the 2017 budget contains or does not contain Prop 123 money?
As it relates to performance pay, sir?
Oh, I'm sorry, my bad, 301 funds, I asked that wrong. Does any other money come into that, or is that only 301 funds that's showing that increase?
This is the 301 funds only, and again, that portion of Fund 12 is what we dedicate to teacher performance.
Right, but I mean, it's you know, 900,000 more than 2016, the proposed, which is good. We always like more, but that's, just to clarify, that's only coming from 301, right? That's not coming from
That is my
anything
understanding, and I
else.
can certainly defer to Mr.
Okay,
Hicks
just
on
make,
that as
like,
well.
no Prop 123 or anything else goes into that increase. Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. Now back to my original presentation. So again, we chose this proposed model for some particular reasons. One, and I think most importantly, and I'm certain I know that's part of our culture here, this plan was built in a collaborative manner and included a variety of stakeholders giving input. This plan, from what I have seen and have looked at, really benefits our staff. The student achievement portion gives teachers an opportunity as it relates to also using the student learning objectives. So teachers have a lot of input and can work with their students on making certain that that component of the plan is met. And that there's also, as you can see, some unknowns that are right in our face, from the accountability formula being rebuilt to the school and district labels and the uncertainty behind that, our move on when reading, the revised assessments, all of those type of things play into the rationale for having a plan that mirrors those from past years. Started to speak to this just right now, but what we wanted to look at, and you will find this in one of the attachments as well, the performance pay document. But what we see here is the three pots in which the performance pay is given, that teachers earn points and have an opportunity to earn 100% of that original 40% in Fund 12. 33% is allocated for the teacher's performance classification, and I guess I would ask you to think of that 33% as the teacher evaluation process. That whole process equates to that 33%. 50% is dedicated to our district student graduation rate, which, as you know, is very high. And lastly, the 17% is what I had mentioned before, allocated for the teacher's student learning objective.
What's the benchmark for the graduation rate to earn the 50%?
The benchmark is, I believe, where is Ms. Davy? Oh, okay, thank you.
But it's very attainable, that's why it's the 50% mark, so that it's essentially stable. So our
Yes, ma'am.
teachers can count on that, is what?
Yes, ma'am.
is
As a matter
how
of fact,
it's
if you're okay,
created.
I'm going to jump to that next slide here, and it'll show you how that works.
Right.
If you look at that part, the 50% of the district graduation rate, if our graduation rate is at 90% or above, as you can see, teachers earn
What I was looking for.
100%
Okay.
of that piece of the pie. So it's very attainable, and from what I have seen, just an excellent way.
I jumped the gun. The
Hey,
answer
that's
was
all
in the
right.
very next slide.
That's all right. Again, these slides here, this slide and the next are going to be providing that breakdown of the components. And again, you can see there at the 33% of the performance classification or the effectiveness label of our staffs. Highly effective and or an effective label earned you 100% of that 33%. And I'll share you this statistic. 99.6% of our Peoria teachers to date for the 15-16 school year were in one of those two categories. So again, we have a plan in place here that's going to allow our teachers to get the greatest amount of money.
But just real quick, what's nice about Peoria is the fact that and correct me if I'm wrong, and this is a number off the top of my head from memory, the Arizona average graduation rate isn't in the low 70s?
Yes.
72, 73, if I remember correctly? Or 76? Okay, so we'll just say about 75. And so when you look at that and say, oh, 90% above, oh, it's very attainable, that's because of the Peoria process, the Peoria culture, and the Peoria expertise from teachers and all staff. Obviously, everyone contributes to that final graduation rate. Bus drivers, food service workers
Right.
are also just as important in that. So the fact that we say 90% above, oh, great, we always get that, that's actually become almost a luxury because of all the hard work everybody puts in. If you look at the state average, we're well above. So for someone to look at that and say, boy, 90% and above, we're actually setting the bar higher in Peoria to be able to get that money. And because of the hard work, we're actually attaining it up up to 15 to 18%, 19% higher than the state average. That's something to trumpet right there.
Very fair, and in looking into our performance pay plan and working with people such as Ms. Davy, I asked about that, and I think as I mentioned before, this collaborative atmosphere in which this plan was developed, pre-K through grade 12, right? Everybody feels like they contribute to the graduation rate, which is, I think, why it is such a large component, because it's something that no matter what you do, no matter what position you hold as a certified staff member, you're going to help get that 93%. Yeah. The last portion of that student learning objective, the 17%, and you can see how that's broken down. I just highlighted in this slide that not only can the rubric for the SLO be found in our teacher observation or evaluation system, but it's also inside the performance pay plan that was included in your board documents. As for the next steps, as you consider your approval tonight of this performance pay plan, please note the following outside of what's on that slide. There were no appeals done by any of our certified staff members for the 15-16 school year. And we also recently ran this plan, reran the plan through our respective associations and received very high comments and remarks. If you choose to move forward on this plan, we will submit the plan to the Department of Education before we leave for winter break there, and that we'll continue to not just move forward with the proposed plan, but also then ensure proper communications with our necessary stakeholders and make certain that we implement the plan with fidelity. And at this point, that concludes my presentation. I'll be here for any questions.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Davidson. Let's start over to my left. Ms. Doan, any questions or comments?
Well, I was really glad to see this, very understandable, thank you. And I'm glad to see that the program we have in place is working. And I'd like to, I'm very glad that our teachers are maxing out on their performance pay as a general rule. I was glad to hear that. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Mrs. Connect?
It's good to me.
Thank you.
Sangarelli? Okay. I'm compliments to you and your staff for being able to create some kind of statistical averages based on the complete unknown that you walk into every day. Everything from Mr. Hicks' presentation before to, we're not quite sure what we're going to get. So to be able to come up with a standardized plan that, it can vacillate back and forth depending on, or scale back and forth depending on what kind of money we actually get. So I'm happy that there was participation as well, and I just hope that in the future more certainty comes to your department so that you can tell people exactly what's going to happen. So,
Sure.
But great job up to with that kind of unknown. This is an action item, so we need a motion and a second, board members.
I move that we approve our Proposition 301 Teacher Performance Pay Plan for the 16-17 school year.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you very much. Please cast your votes. And there it is. Passes unanimously. Thank you very much to the whole AHR staff. Next item on the agenda is number 13, report and discussion on local, state, and federal legislative issues and activities. Dr. Stifler, take it away, sir.
President Bullock, members of the board, let me go backwards just for a moment on the Prop 301 plan. I was courtesy copied on an email that I believe you all got, and it shared, I think, quite accurately portrayed, my gosh, as a teacher, there's all this gobbledygook that comes down on top of me. So I would lift up the 301 plan here as an example. So it's a state mandate, and as our district does its best it can to implement benignly that state mandate. That it wasn't generated from the district, it was how to do that. And so I just wanted to, it just seemed to go with the conversation from before, and pardon me as I just wanted to lift that up. And over again, I'd rather just see us be able to just put this money straight in without all this convoluted stuff to be able to do and put in people's pay, but the law doesn't allow for that. It has ties to a very complicated evaluation system. We had a satisfactory evaluation system, but the state made us change the evaluation system. So a lot of these things come from the top down, and so how can we benignly as possible, without hurting our people, implement them? And our staff works really hard to do that. regarding my regular report here, you heard from Mr. Hicks earlier on the fiscal side, and I'm going to say his crystal ball seems rather grim, and I'm going to report that my crystal ball for the political side is a little bit cloudy. There's a lot of moving pieces right now. President-elect Trump and how that's going to affect. You heard a little bit of that in Mr. Hicks' report. Superintendent Douglas just recommended that the state put an additional $600 million into schools, but there's not a bill to do that at the legislature, and we haven't heard the will. We'll have to see what happens there. The idea about an energy surcharge to put $1 billion into school, that's still floating around there. Don't know what's going to happen with that. There's a lawsuit that's moving forward towards the state to sue the state, say you're not funding the capital needs of schools appropriately. That's moving. That's hanging out there. There's this idea that all-day kindergarten should be funded in the state. It has wide support except for how to pay for that. That's hanging out there. The Classrooms First that Mr. Hicks is on will report more fully at the next meeting. That's wrapping up. There's not final answers there. The State Department of Education is moving quickly, actually quickly, I would say, faster than other states on its implementation of ESSA, the Every Student Succeeds Acts, and what does that mean to us? A through F is probably going a little bit too fast. That's still running through the system. And so we're watching all of those pieces to see how they would impact us. What we do know at the state legislature, the leadership positions have been set, and people are hunkering down to begin to write bills, to begin the process for right after Christmas, and off to the races everyone is. And that's what I have, but I stand for any questions, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Stifler. Always enlightening to see the chaos.
We're looking forward to you fixing that, sir.
That's right.
Thank you for the pressure, and a lot of things have to come into play first, but thank you anyway. All right, number 14, request for agenda items for future governing board meetings. Ms. Pangarelli, any requests? Okay, Mrs. Doan?
I don't know if we need to put this on the agenda or not. I'm looking at perhaps getting our students' opinions on the teachers, just as a tool to see the rapport that's there or not, and what we might be able to do with that information that we get.
Mr. President Bullock, members of the board, I could work with staff to prepare a report that we would share, and then the board could decide whether they want it on a formal agenda from that point, if that would be satisfactory.
That sounds good.
There's support for that? Thank you. Anything else, Ms. Doan?
No, thank you.
Mrs. Connect?
No, sir.
Okay, I don't have anything at this meeting. Thank you very much. Board members. Number 15, consideration of approval of the consent agenda. Any items or reports to pull by my fellow board members to analyze, other questions, or to highlight?
No.
Okay, we'll go ahead and move to it. Since it's an action item, we'll move to a vote. I need a motion and a second for the consent agenda to go to a vote. Do I have that?
I'll move that we approve the consent agenda.
Okay, do I have a second?
Yes. Second.
Oh, I say, yes, I do. Who is it? It's you. All right, excellent. Please cast your votes, board members. Consent agenda passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Number 20, this is on our report section. I strongly encourage everybody to please look at these reports. They're on the district website. They're in the board packet, which is a public document. They're all PDF files. They're viewable on a mobile device, tablet, as well as a laptop or desktop. And you get to see not only how is money being spent at your local school, repairs, security, AC units, whatever, but you also get to see how money is going to be spent in the future for a school near you. And it's always nice to be able to look on there and see what's happening at maybe your kid's school or grandkid's school. So I strongly encourage you to look at these reports at your leisure. Thank you. Next report is our district enrollment report for October 2016. And again, this shows the up or down of the enrollment at your local school or district-wide. The last page has the consolidated numbers. Next item on the agenda is 22, report on upcoming meetings and events. We'll pull that up. There's always neat things happening in PUSD. I'm going to bring to attention December 31st. I know this is near and dear to our PR department's heart because they do such a fabulous job of this. December 31st, last day for tax credit donations. If you don't know what that is or how it works, it's a little convoluted till you go through the process once or so. Please, there's plenty of information online for that process and how it benefits schools. So I would encourage you to research and ask, because there's really only 30 days left, right, for that to happen. So, and that goes by quick with the holidays. We have an open house, our board meeting, December 15th, 2 weeks from tonight. We have a reception. Are we having the little cheesecake bites again? Awesome. Oh, you don't know? You have no idea. All right, who cares what I like, right? Just joking, it's always wonderful. So we invite you, 4 o'clock, open house, reception, recognition of some dudes. So, good. Next item on the agenda is number 23, draft agenda for our next board meeting on Thursday, December 15th. Pull that open real quick. That is 4 o'clock is the open house, 5 o'clock is our normal start meeting time as usual. All right, thank you very much. And last item on the agenda is the board member opportunity to readdress agenda items. Board members, does anybody want to go back in time and revisit any previous agenda item? No?
Nope.
No and no, 3 no's. Which leads us to the sad part of the night, of course, is the adjournment. As I promised, the next meeting I will vote no to adjourn. But it's not that one yet. All right, we need a motion and a second to adjourn the meeting. Do I have a motion?
I move to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, moved and seconded to go home.
Or wherever.
To the police station.
And unanimous. All right, thank you, everybody, for being here. Drive safe and enjoy turkey leftovers if you still have them.
Don't eat them if you still have them.
Yeah, no kidding.